All right, Buffalo Bills fans, welcome to the latest episode of The Walkthrough. I'm your host, Anthony Marino, part of the Overreaction Sports Network. So happy to be here with you. And a friendly reminder, we are brought to you today by our friends at FanDuel. Listen, it is Labor Day weekend. The season's still about a week away, but here we are getting ready for some Buffalo Bills football. Of course, you've heard plenty about the 53-man roster, at least the initial 53-man roster. The practice squad, plenty of buzz around the NFL. You think about the Micah Parsons trade and just kind of so many takes that have been out there about that. But, not going to get into all of that in today's show. Kind of as we go through things, want to talk to you about this season, and I will go through my preseason prediction for the Buffalo Bills, talking about wins and losses here. Each year, traditionally pull this together at Buffalo Rumblings, and I'll have an article in the coming days where pull together our contributors and have them predict the wins and losses and what that will look like for the team. And I do that myself. But today I'll kind of go through game by game with you and take a look and have a real sense for where things will be with the Buffalo Bills. I'll be honest, kind of doing this in real time with you. I jotted down the schedule quickly before I started recording because I didn't want this to be one of those things where I spend all this time and then I just kind of ramble things off. I scribbled down the schedule, as you'll see if you're on the video side, on this piece of paper here, and I'll go through week by week. I don't know where things will turn out. I will preface this by saying traditionally, I'm pretty optimistic when it comes to predicting with the Bills. Back, whatever season it was, 2 years ago, I would be on weekly with Pat Moran on the Talking Buffalo podcast. And each time we'd go through, it's like, yeah, I'm always predicting the Buffalo Bills win. I mean, they're one of the best teams in football. Even when you look at the Las Vegas odds this year, the Buffalo Bills are favored, I think, in every single game, at least when the schedule came out. That may have changed. And again, things kind of, you go back and forth, and that's okay. But they're one of the top teams in football. So, of course, you're going to be optimistic as you look at these things. I try not to be too much of a homer or too one-sided. But along those same lines, when you got number 17 lining up at quarterback, I like my chances when it comes to the Buffalo Bills and what they're going to do. So anyways, we go through this. We'll go through it together. If you're in the comments section here on YouTube, make sure you kind of pipe in with your thoughts on what you think this, your prediction on wins and losses will be for the Buffalo Bills this season. Now, as I say this, that I did not spend a lot of time in advance of this. I will say, you lead up to the week one opener against the Baltimore Ravens. This is probably the one matchup I did not want when it came to week one. And, the matchup with the Ravens, of course, such a tough opponent, will be great for Sunday Night Football, right? I mean, when you think about things there, just kind of a fantastic way to start the season. But for me, that's probably the matchup you didn't want on Sunday Night Football, right? For that opener, I would have taken anyone else on the schedule, I think, and felt okay about it. For some reason with the Ravens, and I don't know if it's just that matchup in the regular season last year. Of course, the Bills got the best of them in the playoffs. And this one is tough for me, but it's like I'm just going to predict this week one game against the Baltimore Ravens as a loss for the Buffalo Bills. There's just something about it that I don't love. Maybe it's the Michael Hoyt injury. I mean, obviously a key acquisition for the Bills, the Derrick Henry factor, Lamar Jackson. So not the way that anybody wants to start the season, but if I'm trying to be realistic here at this time and not just go with my heart, but go with my head a bit, I'm going to have that be a loss for the Buffalo Bills in week one. A great chance to bounce back in week two, traveling down to New Jersey to take on the Jets. We look at this, I think for the Jets, Justin Fields at quarterback, certainly can do some decent things. Aaron Glenn is their new head coach. I think there's a reason, if you are a Jets fan, to feel a bit optimistic, but not in week two, right? So when this comes about, if as a fan of the Buffalo Bills, I like this matchup for them. I think for the Jets, they'll still kind of be trying to figure out what their team is going to look like. And I'm going to put that down as a win as well. Next up, week 3, Thursday night football back in Buffalo, a September game against the Dolphins. I know there's some fans that they always love that matchup, with the Miami Dolphins to be sometime like later in the season. So they've got to deal with the elements. Personally, I like this taking place early in the season. For where the Dolphins are right now, I'm just really not sure with head coach Mike McDaniel. Just been kind of a weird offseason for them. But even more weird is just their defensive backfield. They don't have much back there. I look for this to be a huge game for Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills passing offense. Chalk that up as a win in week 3. Things continue to keep rolling in week 4. The New Orleans Saints, Spencer Rattler named their starting quarterback. For them, doesn't make any sense that they use a second-round pick to draft a quarterback this year, and what should really kind of be a tanking, situation for them where they could have one of the top picks in the 2026 NFL draft. But we're not here really to talk about the New Orleans Saints. We're here to talk about the Buffalo Bills, and that's a win for the Bills as they improve their record to 3-1. Rolling in week 5. New England Patriots, Sunday night football, again in Highmark Stadium. 4 of those first 5 games of the season being at Highmark Stadium. Sunday night football, I personally always enjoy the primetime games. I know many fans, prefer that 1 p.m., especially our friends that are season ticket holders. But for me, I look at this. I can see if you're a fan of the Patriots, reason to feel optimistic with Mike Vrabel as your head coach. Drake May, what he could do at quarterback, some of the new weapons that are there, but I still think they're at least a year away, right? Like they will be a competitive football team, but when we're talking about the AFC East and then matching up with the Buffalo Bills, again, I got this as a win for Buffalo. And then week 6, Monday night football at Atlanta, right? For them, a new starting quarterback in Penix. Certainly some interesting pieces. They've had some struggles with their offensive line and some injuries that have taken place there. Monday night football game, again, the Falcons, certainly a worthy opponent. They will contend for a playoff spot this year. But I think when we take a look at this, I still like the Buffalo Bills in that Monday night football matchup and improving at 5-1 heading into the bye. So again, right, I can look at things and think to myself, that tough start against the Baltimore Ravens, not loving that matchup. Okay, then you rattle off 5 wins in a row, kind of for where the schedule is. Again, some formidable opponents. You've got your 3 AFC East matchups that take place there, of course, for the Atlanta Falcons, like I just said, ones that can contend for a playoff spot. But at this time, heading into that week 7 bye, a little earlier than I would have liked it. But listen, if you're sitting at 5-1, I'm not going to complain. Now, listen, we're going to get into things after the bye, but real quick, I got to talk to you about our friends from ZipRecruiter, right? We talk about them each and every show and what they can do, and you trying to find great candidates. That's always something that's a little bit difficult when it comes to, any type of position that you're in, but it's not difficult when you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter finds amazing candidates for you, and they find them fast. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter's smart technology, it helps you identify top talent as quickly as possible. Immediately after you post a job, ZipRecruiter, they've got this matching technology where they kind of help you, with their algorithms to get the right candidates. And, you're finding qualified candidates as quickly as you can. So listen, ditch the other hiring sites and let ZipRecruiter find what you're looking for, that needle in the haystack. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. You can try it for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/audio. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Okay, so that was the bye for this episode as well. Let's kind of get back into things. Again, week 7, bye. Nothing taking place there. Week 8, the Bills are at Carolina. 1 p.m. kickoff. Again, one of those spots on the road that, you can look at and say, okay, there'll probably be a good contingent of Bills fans in attendance in Carolina. So I sort of like, that could be a little bit of a home away from home type of game. For them, Bryce Young definitely showed some signs of improvement last season. But again, I look at that for a win for the Bills as well. Week 9, the one that everybody's got circled on their calendar. Kansas City Chiefs coming into Buffalo, 4:25 p.m. kickoff. Personally, that is my favorite game slot for the Bills at 4:25. And again, I'm out of town, so for those of you that are season ticket holders or go to all the games, I completely get if you prefer the 1 p.m. time slot. But that 4:25, it's like gives you the rest of the day to get everything out of the way that you need to. And to me, that's that prime viewing slot, right? That just kind of comes in 4:25. All eyes across the country will be on this one. And I'm certainly looking forward to it. Some of you might be saying, like, listen, give the Bills a loss in the regular season, so then they get the win in the playoffs. Like, I don't see a correlation between those two things, right? Like if the Bills lose the regular season game, it doesn't mean, all right, that's going to flip the script and they're going to go ahead and win things when it comes to the playoffs. So, as I look at it, that shouldn't have any bearing on the prediction that I make. Of course, the Chiefs are still a great opponent. They're playing in a much more difficult conference than the Bills are, right? When you think about the AFC West. But with that, you kind of take a look at things and you think to yourself, I still like the Bills as the better team on paper right here, right? When it comes to this, certainly the Chiefs, they have a good defense, but with this game being at home for the Bills, yeah, I'm going to give them the win here in week 9. Bills sitting at this time at 7-1, heading to Miami. Week 10, 1 p.m. I do think things are kind of falling apart for the Dolphins this season. I could be wrong. They're certainly talented when you look at their offense, when you look at the team on paper, with some of their weapons. Tua Tagovailoa, again, I kind of look at him as a quarterback, as someone that I've always, I guess I'll say that I've liked what he brings to, the quarterback position. But I still have this as a win for the Buffalo Bills in week 10. Week 11, fun matchup. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair for both of these teams. But, it's going to be interesting for Baker Mayfield. Certainly you can admire the kind of comeback and turnaround that he has had with his career with this. But Liam Cohen, has left to become the head coach at the Jacksonville Jaguars. So you've got a new offensive coordinator in place. How is that going to change things for Tampa Bay? You look at things, Mike Evans, certainly still a talent, but, getting older when you look at things and, how is their defense going to be holding up at this point? The game being at home for the Bills, again in week 11, I'm going to take that as a victory. Week 12 at Houston, Thursday night football, Houston Texans. This is one of those you don't like traveling on a short week. Houston is certainly a formidable opponent, but you look at it in some ways too, and you just think to yourselves like, okay, you understood last year when they got Stephon Diggs why expectations would have been so high for them. Certainly they've got some talented young players on defense. Coach Ryans, is someone in his, first year certainly was kind of like the belle of the ball, but I think things have kind of come back to earth for them. CJ Stroud, very talented, phenomenal rookie season, kind of came back to earth a bit last year. Now you head into year 3 and you're thinking to yourself, where are things going to fall here? This is one of those I might regret just a little bit, but right now I'm going to take this as a win for the Bills. And I don't say I regret it as, picking it as a win, but, you're kind of coming through that stretch, right? I mean, it's your 5th game coming off the bye on a short week. Granted you're at home the week before, but kind of when I look at the matchup, I'm still going to keep this as a win for the Bills. Week 13 at Pittsburgh, 4:25 p.m. Obviously I'm not a big fan of Aaron Rodgers. I'm not sure how things are going to work with him and Mike Tomlin. By that point, I'm really curious where things are going to be at. I mean, it's the Steelers, and they always play tough. Their defense is always going to be tough. I'm putting that as a win for the Buffalo Bills. Week 14 versus Cincinnati, 4:25 p.m. I know some look at the Bengals and say, oh gosh, this is the team you don't want to play in the playoffs. They are a nemesis of the Buffalo Bills. I really don't buy into that. What happened a couple of seasons ago in the playoffs, that was the DeMar Hamlin year. right? Like that, I look at that kind of just the emotional and physical exhaustion of the team around that. As I look at things, to me, it's like, yeah, I just don't buy into it. I really don't. And I think when you talk about the Bengals, certainly talented, right? This game, I mean, it's going to be a hell of a game. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're probably going to see a lot of offense, but I don't see the Bengals defense being able to do much against the Buffalo Bills. The game is at home. I'm taking it as a win. I get it, right? But that is one. I don't hold the Bengals in that same regard as everyone else does at this time. Maybe come week 14, I'll be completely different and their defense will be humming and they'll be ripping through teams. But I don't know. At this time, I'm just not there. Week 15 at New England, 1 p.m. Talked about them already. Not there yet. Win for the Bills. And week 16 at Cleveland. Yeah, I'm feeling okay with that one, depending on who will be their quarterback at that time. If it'll still be Joe Flacco or one of the rookies in place there as well. All right, week 17, Philadelphia Eagles come to Highmark Stadium. That is one I take a look at, and I'm going to have that as a loss for the Bills. And I think at that point, they've been stringing together all these wins. As I talked about, you had the bye week much earlier. You come into this, a physical defense, a physical offense. They can run the football. At that point, I think you just might be kind of, I don't want to say running on empty, but like things might have just caught up with you just a little bit as you get towards the end of the season. And that is actually going to be the Bills' second loss at Highmark Stadium this year, having won every game there that they played in the 2024 season. That takes us to week 18 against the Jets. And at this point, I'm going to make an assumption with the Bills being 14-2, that they are in contention for the 1 seed, if not in prime position for the 1 seed. Of course, that week 1 loss to the Baltimore Ravens, you have no idea what, kind of things will look like for them. AFC North, a little bit more difficult than the AFC East, at least on paper at this time. And this is the last game at Highmark Stadium. In this scenario, I mean, the Bills are still playing for the 1 seed, right? Whether they have it and they're in position and win and need it, or there's some sort of seeding implications that are there. And I say that and I look at this because I think in many ways, as you talk about it, right, like what does happen with the last game at Highmark Stadium and if the Bills are, have the 1 seed locked up. Now, if it's me, and I know many will not like this, it's like, yeah, you rest your starters, you rest everyone. If there's no playoff implications when it comes to seedings, yeah, maybe you have, Josh Allen hand the ball off to a running back and then put on a baseball cap and sit on the bench and enjoy the rest of the game. So I know many will probably disagree with that when you think of the last game at Highmark Stadium, what that has meant to fans and what that has meant to the Buffalo Bills. But let's be honest, if they're playing the way that they should, there's going to be another game at Highmark Stadium in the playoffs. So this might be the last regular season game, but it's not going to be the last time that the Bills take the field there, that they would be hosting a team in the playoffs. So for this scenario, I'm giving the Bills a win. Understandably, I got them finishing the season at 15-2, which for me, even that feels a little bit optimistic. But I'm going to take it, right? You're losing that first game of the season to the Baltimore Ravens, and then that second to last game of the season against the Philadelphia Eagles. 15-2, though. Yeah, that is that's pretty rich, even for me. But like I said, I wanted to go through this in real time, not where I was going through and saying, oh, 15-2, that's too optimistic. Let me come back and, change something to make it like this or that. Like, no, that's what I got, 15-2. So as I was saying to you before, make sure you go into the comments, write down what you think their win-loss record is going to be. You want to add a little narrative or some thoughts? Go ahead and do that, and I'll jump in the comments as well and kind of chat with you a little bit about what things can look like for the Buffalo Bills this season. So listen, next week we will be back with you again and talking week 1, that week 1 matchup, talking about the injury report for the Buffalo Bills, for the Baltimore Ravens, have some predictions. What's that outlook going to be? Will things change for me in a week? Who knows, right? Am I going to come back and be a hypocrite and predicting that the Buffalo Bills win in week 1? I think some of those injuries will definitely kind of play into that conversation. But let's see what happens. So, and listen, do me a favor. When you get a chance, right? I already told you to comment. Make sure you hit that like button. If you're not subscribing already, I don't know what you're waiting for. Hit that subscribe button. Not so you just get the walkthrough each and every week, but you get the great shows from Jerry Ostrowski, Joe Miller, John Fina. Great lineup here on the Overreaction Sports Network. We want you to be a part of it. We want you to enjoy it. We thank you always for tuning in, and more great coverage because football season is here, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So, all right, listen, let me do this. I'm going to get out of here for now. Thank you again for watching. Thank you for listening. On behalf of everybody here at the Overreaction Sports Network, take care and go Bills.